I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you.
Hey, welcome into JUCK on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me from JUCK Guys Studios Southeast. Probably our last show down here, maybe one more. Can't wait to get back to the studio. This has been rough here, but we do got some news, so we definitely got to come on and talk about it, including a really interesting comment from a Buckeye fan in Arkansas that I can't wait to read to you guys. Our second Buckeye fan in Arkansas with an interesting story. He's got a question. I'm going to throw it out to you guys and get your feedback on that. But first up, Tyler Bowen, obviously. Bowen up, man. Bowen up, a phrase that we use when you hold the line. How perfect of a name is that for an offensive line coach, as he does the damn thing again, gets himself his third offensive line commit, already matching the total of commitments that Ohio State had in 2025 with Carter Lowe, Jake Cook, and Javon McFadden, as he gets the commitment of Tucker Smith. Now, there are 7 current commitments in the class of 2026. Tyler Bowen has 42% of them. And that is not the way it's been with the offensive line at Ohio State in recruiting classes. So, secures the commitment of Tucker Smith on Wednesday, a guy who was just offered 5 days ago. Now, interestingly enough, I got this comment 3 days ago I want to show to you here. So, shout out to our guy, the JUCK Guy comment section. Our man here called it. Always a place of information. So you want to check that. Be sure to add a comment when you like the video. I've been saying since the second week after Tyler Bowen got here and started contacting all these guys, offering a lot of new guys, that the energy around offensive line recruiting at Ohio State was just totally different. It was like a shot of adrenaline got pumped into the arm of the operation, as we are now dealing with an offensive line coach who is just a stone cold aggressive assassin. As for Tucker's commitment, this is a guy who wasn't as highly sought after as Sam Grier, as Max Riley. He had some other big offers. He had USC and some Big 12 offers. Had he not committed to Ohio State the other day, that offer list would have exploded for sure. We know how that goes. But a 3-star kid who's rated maybe like 850 in the country at the moment, he was a bit late onto the scene. And as this process plays out for him, he's going to rise for sure. But what I'm looking at is a 6'5", 280-pounder who we just watched his film the last show. Like, we just watched it. Excellent feet. He's aggressive. When he pulls and gets out there to the second level, he's athletic. He understands leverage. He's a wrestler. It's all there. It's all there with this kid. So what do we got? What I wanted to see as an Ohio State fan was to make this a successful line class, 3 high-level prospects and 3 high-ceiling developmental guys. So he checks that first high ceiling developmental guy for me. And now you've got 2 of your high level prospects with Max Riley, with Sam Grier, and your 1 developmental guy. And I just love it. Now, everybody's getting excited about Tyler Bowen. Not everybody. There's some pushback from mostly the Justin Fry apologists. And they're basically saying, pump the brakes. You got 2 Ohio kids and a 3-star, and everybody's all excited. Number one, I think that kind of shows just how bad things were, why that everybody's so excited about that. But honestly, this is a guy who's been on the job for 6 weeks, and he's got 2 major prospects. Yeah, they were out of Ohio. If anybody is saying that this isn't a big deal to get Max Riley and Sam Grier in this class, they are someone you should take their opinion on recruiting with a grain of salt moving forward, because they clearly haven't been paying attention to what's been going on in the state of Ohio the last 2 cycles now, where you're now losing a kid like a Caden Gebhardt, who is a Ohio State lock from, 2 years ago to the beginning of time, the beginning of this Ohio State football. Like, that is an Ohio State lock right there. And that kid you lost to Clemson. And I could go on, as you guys have heard me go on forever about this very topic. We're not going to do it today. My point is, Max Riley and Sam Grier, big time commitments. Certainly wasn't easy. Remember, they lost the guy that was recruiting them. They lost Ohio State's offensive line coach in the middle of the cycle. Usually that kills a recruitment. And not only did Tyler Bowen come in and pick them up, got their commitments, but got them to commit before they were planning on committing. That's super impressive. That's something Justin Fry never did. And there are people who discount recruiting. Why does it matter? You literally just won a national championship. Like, how much better can it get with what Justin Fry just did with an offensive line to win the national championship? Well, no, it doesn't get better than a national championship. That's for sure. But when we're talking about recruiting, we're talking about the future. We're not talking about today. If Donovan Jackson, by the way, Donovan Jackson, 5-star Donovan Jackson, isn't physically capable to move from guard to tackle and do a stellar job, that national championship does not happen. You needed that 5-star Donovan Jackson to do that, or else you were relying on Zen Mahalski and George Fitzpatrick, and we know what that would have looked like. You don't win a national championship with those guys. That's just not happening. So Justin Fry was relying on that 5-star that somebody else brought in. Now, he didn't bring in Zen Mahalski or George Fitzpatrick, but those are the caliber of dudes that you would imagine he would have had if we were moving forward like 3 years from now, backing up his roster. Those are the kinds of guys that he would have brought in. So he had the benefit of a 5-star Donovan Jackson to be able to do that. I just think that recruiting is the lifeblood of a program. And yes, you can sometimes, if you're a chef, make an excellent meal out of a bunch of crappy ingredients, but it's going to be a lot harder and it's going to be a lot more inconsistent than if you just have your pick of ingredients every time you go to the grocery store. And Tyler Bowen is going to upgrade that. It can also be a lot better if after winning that national championship, you don't need to go buy $2 million tackles and bring in a 7-man offensive line class. Like, it could be better if you didn't have to do that. That's the task that Bowen has been given this pile of crap on him. Like, this is not normal. This guy's got to go out and get 7 offensive linemen. Are you kidding me? But he's doing a great job. As for Tucker, this dude's got the personality. He's got the attitude. Now, he might be not quite 6'5", listed at 6'5". I'm looking at this picture of him next to Tyler Bowen. Tyler Bowen's 6'7", and it looks like he's a solid 2 inches shorter than Tyler Bowen, but he's wearing cowboy boots. Now, I've never worn cowboy boots. That might surprise some of you, but it looks like they probably add at least an inch. So maybe he's 6'4". Either way, doesn't matter. Tucker's the dude. Really loving the way this is shaping up. And now when we look at the spring visits from offensive linemen that have come in and that will continue to come in, we've got quite a few high-level prospects. Let's go through a couple of them, guys that have come, guys that are still coming, and where the Buckeyes stand with those guys right now. So starting with 5-star Jackson Cantwell out of Missouri, he is the number 1 offensive lineman in the class. And I don't think the Buckeyes are in his top 3. He says they're in his top 6. That official visit not scheduled yet. This is not a recruitment that I see ends up being one in the Buckeyes' favor in the end. And it's certainly not a top 3 situation right now. Micah Smith, a very high-level offensive lineman, 6'5", can play tackle, can play guard. I see him ending up a Buckeye in the end. He's out of Vero Beach, Florida, same high school as TJ Alford. Every time I've talked to him, this has just always felt like it was all Buckeyes. Every time you see a picture of him and his family, even when they were at the All-Star, the college football, he was at the Army one. His dad was wearing a Buckeye hoodie. And these are just folks who seem to really, really like Ohio State. I think Micah's in the class. When it's all said and done, which is excellent, that would be our 3rd high-level prospect. And now you're swinging for the fences for a guy like Felix Ojo. Felix Ojo, the number 2 or 3 tackle in the class out of Texas. He is absolutely legit, hasn't even turned 17, and he's just a monster already. The type of dude that, if you had him and Sam Greer, like, my gosh, that's just 2 ridiculous tackles in the class. And right now, he's definitely got the Buckeyes squarely in his top 3. You also got Brett Kullajay. He's an interior guy out of IMG. He just came and visited. I really like him. I don't think that the Buckeyes are in his top 3 right now. Then you've got Duron Parks. Duron out of Sarasota, Florida, originally from Hurricane, West Virginia, who is 6'5", 350 pounds. Definitely a guy who, if Ohio State wanted his commitment tomorrow, I think he would accept that commitment. He would be your project guy. I don't know how high level he is. Obviously, you got a lot physically to work with there. Shed some weight off of him and to really see what he does. It doesn't look like he can move great right now, but he's 350 pounds. So I don't really know how he can move when he gets down to what he should weigh. But he looks to be a pretty promising prospect who might end up in the class. Then you got Sam Rosenborough out of Florida, not yet visited. Don't know where the Buckeyes stand with him as of yet. I think this is a really big visit for him. He is a high profile guy, definitely one of your big timers. He would fit category 1, the big time signing, as would Drew Evers out of Texas, who has also, like Rosenborough, not visited yet, has a really big visit to Columbus coming up. Then you got Aaron Thomas. Aaron Thomas is the one out of Arizona whose dad was an offensive lineman at Florida State. He is the kid who just moved over to the offensive line this past year and got himself already in the top 500 of the country in the overall rankings. Really shows a ton of promise. He's huge, and he's the one who came in last week, who I told you he told me his family, his grandma, a big Buckeye fan, and half his family from Cleveland. So the Ohio State visit was huge. He visited Texas A&M like 2 days later, really liked it at A&M. And right now, this is Ohio State A&M at the top for Aaron Thomas. He would fit into the high ceiling developmental category, but at the end of his senior year, he might just be the high level already. Remember, that'll be his second year on the offensive line. He's got all the tools to make that leap. Then, of course, we got Darius Gray from Virginia. Buck's not in his top 3 right now and not on his official visit list yet, which he has published, but they're working to get in there. He's always felt to me like he likes Ohio State. He told me that a week before Tyler Bowen got hired at Ohio State, he was at his basketball game, which, by the way, we talk about Sam Greer as a basketball player, Darius Gray, a serious basketball player. He's an interior guy, and he's a guy, like, regardless of position, people don't value interior offensive linemen, just the position, very much. So those guys don't get rated super high. But just as a football player, this dude is top 10 overall for me. Like, he is just a mauler this is the kid that came up at camp at Ohio State and wasn't a very high level guy. And Jakeem Stewart was the number 1 overall recruit and lined up across from Jakeem Stewart and stonewalled him 5 in a row. And at that point, his recruitment just went off the charts. Not an overly big kid. He's only like 6'3", but just a total stud and a really good kid. And then you got Evan Goodwin. Evan Goodwin is Tyler Bowen's first offer from Arkansas, and he's a 4-star, 6'7" kid that I think has a ton of potential. And I think Tyler Bowen considers him in that upper level of a very high level prospect. I think this is a very big visit for Evan. He's really interested in Ohio State. He's a really smart, methodical type of guy. So he's coming and doing his homework. And guys like that usually gravitate towards Ohio State. So I think this is going to end up being a really good visit. I talked to him before he came up. I'll talk to him when he leaves. We'll see how it went. I'll let you know. And that is it when it comes to recruiting, which is obviously offensive line heavy, as Tyler Bowen has made it such. And that is a weird feeling. It's like last, I don't know, couple years, we're sitting here talking about the offensive line constantly during the recruiting cycle in this negative way. And it's always a topic of conversation, like how bad it is and the consistent misses. And now it's the topic of conversation because you're landing all these commitments. It's weird. It's been quite a turnaround. I couldn't be more happy as a lover of trench play, particularly offensive line. Now, Pro Day at the Woody was a spectacle. I mean, you want to talk about, first off, can we say this? These guys had uniforms on with their names and everything. Like, the Buckeyes did it right. It was set up cool. There was all 32 teams represented there, 142 NFL personnel there to watch these 17 Buckeyes work out. And 17 guys, man, 17 dudes. What is the goal of every high schooler, right? To make it to the NFL. Could you imagine why not schedule Jackson Cantwell's visit on that day? Let a dude like that come and see that. What a spectacle. Now, 17 dudes. The record is 15 guys drafted. It was Josh Fryer, G. Scott that did not get invited to the combine. So a huge day for them. And G. Scott measures out at just less than 6'3", 238 pounds. Not going to help his cause. Not going to help his cause at all when there are so many 6'6", 260-pound tight ends who run a 4.6 or 4.5. G ran a 4.6. Like, just based off his size, I think he'll get a shot as an undrafted free agent. I don't think he's getting drafted just based off his size alone. I just don't see it happening, and that's unfortunate. As for Fryer, he did everything but bench press, including run the 40, which is so stupid. Tyleik Williams got injured running the 40. He tweeted later and said he was fine, but he's running the 40. Would have had a good time. He was trucking, and his hamstring pulls him up, and he ends up falling over. And I just don't understand why we are still doing this with Tyleik weighs 329 pounds. We know he's fast. We can see it on his film. I don't know why he chose to do it. I don't even know why it's an option for these big guys. Why do you even want them doing that? Watching Josh Fryer run a 40 was something, man. His feet got like 6 inches off the ground in full stride. It was just like, what are we doing here, man? But he did everything but bench, which is, if somebody sends Xavier Restrepo that memo, when you're not going to get a good score or a good mark in something, skip it. Don't do it. Let him think, oh, you must be bad. Don't show him a 4.83, which is what Xavier Restrepo did, which maybe we'll talk about him later. I know some of you guys could not possibly care less about a Miami wide receiver. It's just an interesting conversation when we talk about these things like pro days and measurables and what the NFL is looking for. Like, this guy was a really solid wide receiver, could have elected not to run at his pro day, and then he goes and runs and puts up just a putrid 40 time, and now has maybe dropped himself out of the draft for a lot of teams, just off the board, because nobody wants to be the guy that drafts a guy that's a bust, and then you can come back and say, dude, this guy ran a 4.83 and you took a shot on him, like, you're fired. It's just put himself in a really rough spot. So that's why you skip it. But it always has amazed me how many of these big guys can't get 20 reps at 225. And I'm guessing that, our guys are strong. Josh might not be one of them, might struggle at the bench, but Jack got 21 reps. G. Scott got 25 reps. Quinshawn got 25 reps. Lathan got 20 reps. JT got 24. Cody Simon got 21. Donovan got 32. Ty Hamilton 35. Josh Simmons 33. So our big boys up in the 30 club. Congratulations to them. Emeka with a 4.45 40. That was really big for him. That was something that a lot of people were waiting to see. Like, how fast is this guy? He doesn't look super fast. Could he be one of those guys that when they, get him out there, he runs, high 4.5s? Would have been really bad for him. But a 4.45 solidifies him in that spot where we kind of all thought back end of the first, early in the second was a good time for him. So he'll be really happy with that. Josh Fryer's arms were longer than Jimmy Simmons, so that's good for him. Donovan Jackson, really long, 83-inch wingspan, which was longer than Simmons. Ty Hamilton, 6'2.5", 299, tested pretty well, not great. He's one of those guys that's on the cutoff of whether or not he's going to end up getting drafted. I'd say out of the 15 guys that we assume are going to get drafted, he is the guy with the lowest draft grade. So he's the guy on the cusp. Will Howard, everybody said, threw great. I watched about 5 minutes of it. I mean, it all looks great, right? But I think my biggest takeaway from it was, my gosh, the wide receivers, when you're watching them in practice, they're just amazing. We're talking 40 yards down the field, over the shoulder catches, like it's just nothing. And that is such a high degree of difficulty in a full sprint to look up and catch that ball over your shoulder. They're just crazy. Brandon Inniss, the juice is real. Like, he looks so much quicker. But whenever I watch Bryson Rogers practice, it's just, I think it's because he didn't come out of high school with the huge pedigree that most of the Ohio State receivers did, that I just don't expect him to be so damn good. That guy is so tough to cover. The way he moves, the way he comes out of a cut, his feet are so quick, and he's long, he's lanky, he's smooth. I hope to see some of him. But the problem is, you just got so much talent. every time we see Bryson Rodgers, is maybe one less rep of Mylan Graham. And it's like, what do you do? There's just a plethora of wonderful options. Thanks to Brian Hartline. Thanks to recruiting. Big time for Jordan Hancock, 6'1", 186 with a 4.42. Really good for Jordan Hancock. That'll help him quite a bit. By the way, Jordan Hancock, only 186 pounds. The way he tackles, I would have thought he was more than that. I would have thought he was at least, 195, 200, but that's really impressive. Lathan Ransom, 6'2", 203 with a 4.53. Cody Simon, 6'1" and a half, ran a 4.59. But as I've said about Cody, who's a linebacker, it's the 10 and the 20 that is most important for him as a linebacker. And he is faster than the little guys in the 10-yard and the 20-yard, which is phenomenal. He was faster in the 10-yard than Ballard, who was the fastest guy on the team last year. And that is extremely important. It's one of the reasons he is such a good linebacker. One other takeaway from the portal, or from the pro day that I had, Mayan Williams, who has signed with, he's playing with, I think, the Toronto Argonauts in the Canadian Football League. They let him come back and work out. I think that is so damn cool. They did the same thing last year with Sam Wiggles, who transferred from Ohio State down to Ohio and had a great career at Ohio. And on pro day, they let Sam come up and work out. They let Mayan come do it too, at least participate. And it was awesome. I think that that's something that makes Ohio State special. Sam Wiggles is a guy who transferred away, and they let him come back and do that because they respected him, and he always stayed cool with them. And he left because he knew he would never play, and they knew he would never play. And he went and had a great career and represented. Also helped them out when they were looking for Will Kazmarek with some inside information for Coach Key, who they have a really good relationship. So really cool stuff, unique to Ohio State. As for Mayan, how he looked, he's doing these drills right after Trey, right? Everybody's not going to look great doing an agility drill, bobbing and weaving in and out of cones after Travion Henderson. Mayan in particular, that wasn't his strong suit. And he looked a step and a half slow after Trey doing that. So I don't know if he's going to get anything out of it, but always a guy I thought was fun to watch, and I enjoyed watching him out there. Probably not an NFL running back, but it was cool that they let him participate. After Tuesday's practice, we got to hear from Larry Johnson, CJ Hicks, Logan George, Edric Houston, Kenyatta Jackson, and Caden Curry. And I wanted to hear from the freshmen, really wanted to hear from Caden McDonald, but we didn't get to hear from any of them. Didn't get to hear from Jason Moore or Taiwan Malone, which I would have loved to hear from those guys. But did get to hear for the first time from Logan George, who was very shy dude. Larry called him a really pleasant surprise. Ryan Day said he was super serious, which he is. Another way that he's exactly like Caden McDonald. Ryan also said that he's earned the respect of his teammates. Larry said that he's quicker than he thought he was, got power, really strong hands, and sets the edge. And he's really excited about what they can do with him. What I found most interesting about Logan George's interview is that he was talking about why he left Idaho State. And he said that the defensive staff got fired and they probably would have changed the defense, the new staff. So he thought maybe it's time to go look at the portal. So unlucky move for those guys that got fired. But Logan George's career in football has just changed drastically. And that is quite a stroke of luck because he never would have left Idaho State had those guys not gotten fired. Now he's at Ohio State with 2 years of eligibility, a guy that's probably going to play quite a bit this year, and then maybe start next year. And he would have been at Idaho State in the FCS. So really cool. He's apparently coming along, which is great to hear. Larry, of course, was asked about CJ Hicks a lot, and CJ Hicks spoke. Larry said it's still early. They just got a couple days with pads on, but we're going to continue to work. He's got the technique. He's got the skill. He's been working hard, and he's very eager to learn. And you can see that with CJ Hicks and in his interview. He's eager to learn. He knows he's got 1 year left, and this is it. And he's always been a really good dude. He said about being asked if he's too lightweight at 240. He said he's going to play at 245. He said, don't get it wrong. I'll run through somebody's face, which everybody loved that quote for sure. You love to hear that kind of confidence out of him.
What do you think you bring to that, to the edge?
To the edge?
Yeah.
My ability to get up the ball, and then a lot of people think because of the fact I am 240, I don't have any power, but I can definitely run through somebody's face if I need to.
Jason Moore, always an interesting topic when we talk about Jason Moore. This is a guy who came in with all the pedigree. Larry said he just needs more reps. He needs more reps. And generally, you would want those reps to happen when a dude is in garbage time of a game, when you got a game in hand, is to give him the reps then. That has not happened with Jason Moore. Wasn't getting garbage time reps. Larry said he'll get about 200 to 300 more this spring, which is great. But he is currently, fighting with Tywone Malone to back up Caden McDonald, and neither of them so far has popped in their career. So we're certainly looking for something out of the two of them. And I'm looking for a comment here as I'm going to read some of your comments we're going to go through, guys. All right, so here's the comment I wanted to get to. Now, this is from Mark, and Mark is a guy who comments often on a lot of shows. Mark's look, some of us swing positive, some of us swing negative. Mark's a little bit negative, but here's what Mark has to say. Spring portal, JUCK, come on, man. Let's be real here. The Bucks need to go get an experienced all-conference level starting quality defensive tackle and defensive end. This group is young and inexperienced and lightweight. Could see scum running the ball up and down the field on this group of defensive linemen. Now, he's talking about he wants a starting defensive end to go with Kenyatta and Caden Curry. He's obviously discounting maybe the Caden Curry-Logan George combo, discounting CJ Hicks, and wants a starting quality defensive end. Then he wants a starting quality defensive tackle to go along with K-Mac and Edric, assuming Ty Malone, Will Smith Jr. aren't those guys. Jason Moore, not going to develop. Larry was asked about the transfer portal because Ryan Day said that defensive line was his biggest concern. He brought up Hero Kanu, how big of a loss that is, and it is. We're looking at Will Smith Jr. right now and Eric Mensah as your 2 and 3 at One Tech, and that's not ideal. Larry and Ryan Day, I believe, will go to the portal. They'll definitely go to the portal if they have to, but they're going to wait till the end of spring. They're going to wait and see if these guys pop. I mean, they're working double time to advance the development. But, if I'm guessing, I think Mark's right. I think Mark's right that you're going to need at least, a guy to supplement the ones you lost, right? You lost Hero Kanu. You lost Mitchell Melton. Hero Kanu right now at 320 pounds, I think would be a really nice backup to Caden McDonald. If you don't lose him, that interior defensive line looks a lot better. And if you don't lose Mitchell Melton, who maybe I'm higher on than most people, I think that you look a lot better on the defensive end. So if you can at least go replace those two pieces, and again, those are backup guys. Those aren't starters. Mark would like starters. Look, I'm all down for more talent, but you got to be careful that you don't make for a toxic room. I think you can get away with explaining to your room, listen, we lost Hero, we lost Mitch, and we've not come around to be able to supplement those losses with what's on the roster now. We've got to go get some bodies to make up for those losses. That I think is something that probably needs done. But hopefully, ideally, Will Smith and Tywone Malone will surprise the heck out of me, and they'll be just excellent. And in the spring game, they'll terrorize the offensive line, and that'll be great. But the thing is, we're dealing with now what we didn't deal with before, when I used to say to myself, look, somebody's going to pop. We always know somebody's going to pop. We didn't used to have, you just lost Hero and Mitch Melton. Those would be the next guys up. Now they're gone. And these the most consequential portal losses that we've had on the defense, those two right there. All right, we got a lineup of star-studded visitors coming here. Want to hit on these guys before I get to your comments. We got number one, Favor Aki, the Ohio running back who went down and visited Miami the other day, coming back to Ohio State to visit again today. Then we've got Messiah Hampton. We've watched his film here before. He is the wide receiver from New York who's absolutely electric. I talked to him pre-visit. We'll talk to him post-visit, see how that went, as well as Evan Goodwin, the offensive lineman out of Arkansas. Then we've also got one of the best edge rushers in the country, 6'6.5", 225-pound Carter Meadows. A huge visit for Carter. We need to make a big impression on him here. This kid is long. He's full of juice. Really, really good player already. And he is looking like he really is interested in most of the schools in the Midwest. He's interested in the Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State circuit. And that would be really big to get in on him because he's a total stud, game changer type of kid. Then we got Cottrell Webb, another defensive lineman. This is the one we talked about last week, who was Deuce Gerald's teammate at Collins Hill in Georgia. Top 300-ish type of guy, really solid player. Safety Joey O'Brien, who, man, this kid, 6'3" out of Pennsylvania. He is such a good athlete. I think that he would be a top 10 wide receiver as well as a safety, but he's kind of just listed as an athlete right now. Not currently on the Buckeyes are not currently on his top list. And ultimately, I think he ends up at Penn State. But here's an opportunity for Matt Guerrieri to maybe make a move on him. At any rate, looking really good with Braylon Womack right now still. Then you've got Havon Finney, and this is an interesting one. So I talked to Havon Finney. This was the number one cornerback in the class of 2027. And I talked to him after he got offered because the Buckeyes offered him at wide receiver, and he's the number one corner. And Heartline offered him when he went to visit Chris Henry Jr. at Mater Dei. He went and saw this kid and offered him. And I thought it was curious. So I asked him, has any other wide receiver coaches offered you? He said, no. No, but Ohio State wants him as a wide receiver. Do you want to play wide receiver in college? I would love to play both ways. Okay, well, if you had to pick one, no, he wants to be a DB. All right, so that's not going to work. Well, he has since reclassified to 2026, and he's coming to visit. So we'll see. We're going to need Tim Walton to get in on that one. My assumption is Walt is going to get in on this, but he doesn't want to be a wide receiver in college, is what he told me, unless he's going both ways. He'd like to be Travis Hunter. There's not a whole lot of film out on him to be able, because, you know, he's so young, to be able to see if he would be capable of that or not. Now, let's get to a couple of your comments. Our guy, Nutty Buck Guy, says, "Hey, Juck, forgive me if you made this point in the video." And he's talking about the comment I made about Ryan Day kind of flip-flopping on the spring game issue. And Nutty Buckeye Guy says, "I honestly believe that Day perhaps thought that coming off the long season felt much differently about the timeline than he feels about it now that the dust has settled a tad. Thus, the apparent 180. Thanks, brother. Love your show." Now, I think Nutty Buck Guy makes a really good point that maybe he thought, you know, things would be a bit different. The timeline would be messed up, and they caught up really quick because they're all really good at their jobs. And now things are looking good so far as the spring starts. That's okay. Things are going to be just fine. We can go ahead and do that. That is very possible. Also very possible that he listened to a really well laid out argument on a certain podcast that he said, "Oh, you know what, Nina, I think this guy's right here. We should probably have the spring game." That could have happened too. Either way, one or the other. Chris Lane commenting on it. Here's Chris Lane, and I just want to clear this up. This is he's commenting on an old post that I made about Caleb Downs returning punts and my disdain for bubble wrapping your best players. And Chris says, "You're so right. I agree. I really do. However, I think that we may need to rethink it all once again. The season is so much longer for playoff contenders now. I do think that the best player at every position should be at the position despite the injury concerns. It's just different now. Go Bucks, go Juck." Thank you, Chris. So I just want to go over this one more time so at least my listeners know the truth. Here's the truth, guys. The truth is, from 2014 to 2023, it took 15 games to win the national championship. 12 games, your conference championship, then 2 playoff games. That's 15 games. It took these Buckeyes 16 games. That's 1 game. However, what is it that actually impacts you in football? It's the number of plays you play. Not how many games. It's how many plays does your body get beat up? How many plays do you play? Well, when we look at the rule change for clock stoppage after a first down, you have lost over 100 plays a year. Each team has. And that is just about a game. So you've lost an entire game, but you added an extra game to win the championship. So now it's a wash. That's no extra football. The only time you're playing extra football is if you are the conference championship loser and you play that extra 4 games to get to the national championship. So Ohio State played 16 games. They played 15 in 2014 to win the national championship, 1 extra game, but 1 extra game's less plays, which means nobody's in any extra danger. Nobody's playing any more football. It seemed tenacious and very different, but it's really what it boils down to. It was just 1 extra game for these Bucks, just 1. That's it, 1 extra game. Matt Armstrong says, Juck, do you think Ryan Day's increased influence from Jim Tressel this past season has put more of an emphasis on recruiting kids from the state of Ohio? It seems like this offseason, he's made more of a point to say he's determined to build the team from Ohio first. Matt, I love Jim Tressel's influence on Ryan Day. I haven't heard these statements that are any different than things Ryan Day has said in the past. But we do have a really good class in Ohio in 2026. And there has been a lot of offers from the Buckeyes go out to this class. There was a good class in Ohio in 2025, a lot of offers. So definitely peppering the state. There are times when I think that, there are times that I think they could do a better job, but all in all, doing a pretty good job. I mean, how can we argue right now with the current class as we're sitting here with Jaden Ricketts and Sam Greer and Max Riley and soon to be Favor Akey. And I'm missing somebody off the top of my tongue here, but the class is peppered with Ohio kids to start, which is a fantastic job. Richie Dubs says, now let's circle back and get Will Conroy and lock down the Northeast Ohio 3. We'll let Clemson keep the Southern Ohio dude. That's Adam Guthrie. The Northeast Ohio 3 would be Will Conroy, Max Riley, and Sam Greer. Will Conroy, the center out of St. Ignatius, who's transferred to IMG. Talked to Will not too long ago. Tyler Bowen had contacted him when he first got the job, and then it kind of went radio silent. Doesn't seem to me like Ohio State is super interested, or they would have scheduled him for come up for a visit by now. And that's unfortunate because I think Will would flip from Oklahoma in a second to come to Ohio State. And I really like him. So that sucks. Destroy Mark says, bagged Riley, bagged Greer. Now send the house to Champ, and then it's free swings at anyone we want. Absolutely. Stephanie, the original JUCK guy, our new offensive line coach has already done a better job of recruiting than Fry did the last few years. Can't argue that. Destroy Mark says, I agree for sure with the scholarships to other Ohio kids. In a time of college sports when teams are starting to offer and get talent out of Ohio, you have to offer and show these Ohio kids that even if we recruit nationally, you are still a priority. We got schools like Oregon, USC, Bama, Teton offering kids in Ohio before we do. And he is, of course, 100% correct. You got to absolutely make them feel like a priority, and you got to get on them earlier than you used to because they are more prone to leaving now. And you've now got people who never would have even taken a swing at pulling kids out of Ohio. Proof of concept that they can get it done. So we got to protect these borders first and foremost. S. Looney says, one difference too is having all those offers out for offensive line puts urgency on getting your spot in the class. And he's exactly right. And Tucker Smith felt that urgency for sure. Ben Dilbert says, hey, Juck, what do you think of Micah Smith? Hearing a lot about him early, but not so much lately. Was told he'd be a Buckeye. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Micah Smith is going to be a Buckeye. And he's definitely the one guy out there that I would put, if I had to put $100 on one guy in the country that's going to end up being a Buckeye in that class, it's definitely him. All right, let's get to this one. This is really interesting here. So go Bucks 69-4-20. Oh, Jesus. Hey, Juck. Buckeye fan from Lima that moved to Arkansas when I was 12, and I've been here ever since. I'm 23 now. Tons of Texas fans where I live, and the Cotton Bowl was my first ever Buckeye game. I had so much fun that I immediately bought tickets to the Texas-Ohio State game next season, and it'll be my first game in the shoe. The fact that it's a noon kickoff really ruins the game day experience for me. Would I be crazy for selling my tickets just because it's a noon game? As someone who goes to a lot of games, I'd like to hear your opinion on how different the energy overall experience is. All right, so for starters, You are the second Arkansas guy who grew up in Ohio and moved to Arkansas fan who has sent me something like that. The first one, his first game was the game this past year. He drove all the way up from Arkansas for his first game at the shoe, and that was the experience he got. And he was so mad, drove all the way home, all bitter and pissed off. And then he came back up for the Tennessee game. And he comes back up for the Tennessee game. I went to the game, and this dude happens to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Juck, I'm the dude from Arkansas. We're sitting in the same row." Like, how crazy is that? Right? So your comment just brought me back to that story, which is cool. And he was cool as hell. Obviously, got treated to one of the best games I've ever seen in the shoe. At that Tennessee game was just everything surrounding it, the circumstances we were all in, the mood, and the fans that were in there that night, the Buckeye fans that were in there that night were just electric. Like I can't ever, I don't know if I've ever seen it like that before. It was just crazy. It was like those Tennessee fans were there, and it was such a like a gut check. Like, I don't know, man. It felt like a tribal, very tribal. You know what I mean? It was so cool. And thank goodness the Buckeyes gave us that performance and we got to just laugh them out of our stadium. But to your point about the difference between a noon game and a night game obviously is electric when you're playing any opponent. It could be a bad Nebraska team and it's going to be electric. I'm sorry, not any opponent. Like a MAC team doesn't count. But, you know, I've been to games at night against a middling Big Ten team, and it's electric as hell. Obviously, that same team at noon, not going to be such. The difference is a big-time opponent at noon at the shoe is going to be insane. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere. No doubt about it. A big-time opponent is what brings the juice. You can artificially make the juice by making it at night, even if it's not a big-time opponent. But if it's a big-time opponent, it doesn't matter what time. It could be 12, 3:30. I'm going, you're going, everybody's going, and it's going to be wild as hell. So don't sell those tickets. Keep those tickets. We're talking about a top 3 matchup. You're going to make that trip. You live amongst these people. You live amongst these Texas folks. You got to make that trip. It's your duty. It's your honor. You got to do it. So we will see you there. And I hope to see you at the shoe for that game because that one's going to be amazing. All right, guys, this may be my last show from JUCK Studios Southeast for this month anyway. Cannot wait to get home and hope you like the video and subscribe to the show if you haven't already. I think that's it. I think that's all I got for you. All right, that's all. That'll do it. I'll see you guys soon. Talk to you later. JUCK out.